Now this is actually going to be the introduction, part one, of a restoration on what for 5 years has been our FZR with the Ferrari motif. We've enjoyed it, we've track dayed it, we've got about 32,000 miles on it, and it's time for it to be refreshed. Now I had a really simple objective here. I wanted to try to come up with a paint job, a paint scheme that was reminiscent of the 70s and 80s, 90 Yamahas with the ladders. That was their trademark. But because this is a 90s bike, what I'm trying to do is include an older type paint job on a more modern bike. This is a 1000cc 1991. We've had it for 5 years. Luciano helped us with a lot of the work on it, and he actually was the one that found it. Now, some of the things I did from AIRTECH, I bought a brand new seat because where the taillight is, I had bondoed it all in, and over time, it didn't hold up. So I wanted a new seat because I'm going to be putting a lot of time and effort into this restoration. And as I walk around, I want to just do some of the things that I've tried to figure out ahead of time. I have a different windshield. I have a windshield from a 93 that's just about an inch shorter, and so the new fairing that's coming from AIRTECH, it's already here in fact, is going to be shorter. It'll give me more clearance for my handlebars to go back and forth. That'll be one little thing we want to have. At some point in this thing, I'm going to try to upgrade the mirrors. I'm really unhappy with these mirrors because what happens is when you're at high speed, they just flop. And I don't think, of course, they're inexpensive mirrors, so they're another upgrade we're going to do. We're going to upgrade the lights. Now, I wanted to show what I've done in the past. A lot of people think the bike has no headlights. Yeah, it does. But here's the problem, and I'll try to show this in real time here. Let's turn the bike on. Oh, the fuel pump goes crazy. Now, if I turn the lights on, you see they're pretty bright. But what I wanted to do is come up with a way that I can turn those lights, that they're headlights, and also a double circuit LED that will act as blinkers. So what will happen will be, and I know this might be a little awkward to see, those will be my headlights, and I have no blinkers sticking out at all. So that's another upgrade. Now what I'm trying to do is explain the upgrades. This is really the introduction to the project. I got the AIRTECH piece. Here's the reason I wanted to have this. There's no, and see how nice AIRTECH stuff is. They have a little line, little indentations where the bolts go, and little outlines if you were going to cut this out for the headlight. But here's what I want to have. This piece, I had to make these pieces from scratch. These are not the headlights. This is all hollow inside. So that piece had to be made. I had to make from scratch, of course, and that's on our channel. I had to make the windshield. Now, the reason I wanted to have a clear windshield, because I want to shoot video through the windshield now. In the time I made this, it was not that important. Now I want to upgrade it, so I did get a clear windshield from Circle Cycle. And you can see by shortening this, these are at full lock. I'll have a little more clearance around things as you move the handlebars, because again, this is an FZR. It came with clip-ons, but because of my need to have handlebars, I like handlebars at this point in my life a lot better. I enjoy riding a bike more with handlebars than clip-ons, so for me that works out fine. So part of the project is going to be the seat. We'll have to, of course, refinish the fuel tank. While we have it apart, we're going to do a lot more polishing on the frame. While I have the wheel, I already have a set of brand new tires, brand new Michelins. And one of the things you can pick up from the video, from this series of videos, it's not going to be one video, it's going to go over the course of a whole winter, in fact. I'll try to number the parts, part 1, part 2, part 3, but the sequence of things to do. Sometimes you get the horse ahead of the cart, I know I have. And sometimes just by watching somebody else do a restoration, an example is on this restoration, this one was down to the frame, actually beyond the frame. And when I think back of the sequence of doing things, there's a lot of things on this bike I wish I would have sequenced up just a little bit different. But now I'm going to try to share some of the things that I think are really going to make this an exceptional bike. First off, this bike is a super nice bike for me to ride. It's very, very comfortable with the handlebars, has a nice comfortable seat. Here's the big thing. I already own it. It's already historically registered. I never have to register it again or pay a penny toward registration. So, any money I invest in this, I'm basically going to have forever. I've used it for a track bike for a couple of years. I've used it for a street bike. I've had a lot of fun with it. I don't have a lot of money invested in it. When we got it very cheap. And a lot of the things that I think might be upgrades this year are really going to bring it. Maybe at the end of this, I'll really, really like it. I don't know. But anyway, I do have a seat. I have it down in the shop. I do have the fairing. I have these little gizmos that Circle Cycle sold me that turn the headlights into blinkers. And we're going to see how these work. I don't know what these are, but I got them from Circle Cycle. And he said you can turn 2 LED circuits so that your running light LEDs or headlights become blinkers. We'll see how that works. I got the 93 windshield, clear, and that I got from Circle Cycle. I got all the bodywork that I'm going to use from AIRTECH. And what I'm not going to use, I'm going to recycle. These parts are going to get recycled. And since they're not a focal point of the bike, I'm not going to worry about doing a little Bondo work on them. This part in here that takes such a beating, that pit right behind the wheel, I'll pull that out, and I'm thinking I may even just paint that flat black. I don't know. But one of the things that never worked out on this part here was never a good fit here. So I'm going to try, if I can, to make this part of this fairing. Join it to this fairing, and join it with a complete seam here that's seamless, so it'll look like this. It'll be part of this. And don't know if that's going to work out exactly as planned. Again, when you're in a planning stage of this bike also has a Sprox, a gold Sprox, and a relatively new chain that I got from Vlad. So I put a lot of work and effort into making this bike comfortable for me. And I think the final piece of this puzzle, the cherry on a sundae, is going to be the new bodywork and having what amounts to be pretty much a 70s or 80s Yamaha paint job. John Pothier has volunteered to help me make all the decals. I think we're going to have a pretty special project going on here. I don't want the video to run off forever, but I did want to share. This is the introduction, and I'll go down the shop and show a couple of the things that I want to do right at the beginning. Now, one of the parts of this project, again, that I thought was going to be a significant thing, now that we're back in the shop, see how AIRTECH leaves the little blisters where the mirrors go? I think that's a nice little touch, and I've had good luck with AIRTECH stuff. The only issue that with this particular project I have is I'm going to be adapting a 93-94 windshield. Now, the fairings of the 91s are just a little bit different. They're close. I'm going to have to do a little grinding up here. And the reason for this is I want to have this a little bit shorter, give me a little more clearance. And the windshield looks, but I don't know if it really is, it looks a little lower. It'll be a lot nicer for us when we're shooting video. I think in the shooting of the video, that's going to be a big thing. It's going to help, well, we're going to find out, of course. But there's an issue I have to deal with. I probably can deal with this today, and I'll show this. This would be the first step of this project. So basically, this is a simple issue that I have. And it's because this is going to be a custom installation anyway. And day one or step one, I guess this would be an easy way to put it. These holes on this windshield are not an exact fit. And I checked it at Circle Cycle that I would have enough material to do this, to do what I want to do. But there's a secret to doing this. And this is what I found. This is a good tip, by the way, if you're installing a windshield on a TRACKDAY fairing or something. What'll happen, if you drill this hole first and this hole, as you tighten the front hole, you inevitably run the risk of cracking these bolts. if you drill the front holes first and work your way to the back and never over tighten the bolts. That's a good, well, it worked for me anyway. But anyway, so it probably means I'll crack this windshield. But anyway, we will be doing that. So when I install this, I will definitely get the front two bolts lined up before I even try to drill these two in the back. And that's a critical part. It's a very critical part of getting this done. So here's another thing. Before I do anything with the part, and this is exactly as it came from AIRTECH, because these are made to be a TRACKDAY part, they're made relatively thin, maybe even a little thinner than stock parts. So what I want to do is I want to reinforce wherever the windshield is going to go. I want to run a carbon fiber reinforcement or e-glass, it doesn't matter. I want to stiffen this up, because what I want to do is before I drill these holes for the bolts, I want to make little recesses, maybe little pieces out of hardwood or something, so that I don't want to run the risk of cracking the windshield. I want to have the bolts just hand tight, and I don't want to put a stress on this. This is very, very delicate right now. And the reason is I'm going to spend a lot of hours getting a beautiful finish on this and maybe even painting inside. But the one thing I don't want to have is when I'm all done, I don't want to have a crack. So I'm going to be very, very cautious about it. Again, these are very delicate parts at this point in the project. And if you follow through with the sequence of this, I want to get the parts reinforced where they're going to need reinforcement. Wherever I find a bolt or a hole, I'll put a reinforcement before I paint the part. Then as a final thing, once this carbon is dry, and that'll have to dry overnight or a couple of days anyway, what I want to have with that, I want to make sure that windshield is a perfect fit. And I'll start at the front tightening the bolts, never tighten the back bolts first, then go to these two, and I'll try to show that probably in the next video. But for today, I have enough time. I want to run that reinforcement. So I want to take some scrap carbon, set up a little pattern, and get that reinforced. Now, it doesn't really matter if you use e-glass on this or whatever. This is a carbon fiber tube. It's like a Chinese necklace. But what this will allow me to do is just make a nice, neat edge on everything. And that's not really even important. Let's get a little more of this up. Since we have all kinds of extra scraps here of carbon fiber, this will do it. And this should just make for a relatively nice, neat reinforcement and allow me to get all of those bolts to seat just right, just at the right angle. Now I'm using CA, Brodax CA, to just carefully put this piece of reinforcement in. We've done this a lot of times on the videos before. Kind of a cut and dry thing. You just work that around. It'll be 30 seconds, it'll dry. And of course, wear rubber gloves. And the next part of this process is using thin CA. So we basically have this part tacked down. With thick, it's gone off by itself. We can just, this is very thin and capillary. Mostly it's the capillary that we care about. I've got to get a paper towel here. Oh, that one's shot. The stuff goes off so quick, and just really quickly rub it. The dust from the towel kicks it off. And that's basically dry already. Now, using ordinary scissors, you can trim off the most of it, but the rest of it you do with sandpaper, and the sandpaper takes it right off. And just any piece of 180 sandpaper, you can pretty much see as you go down. Now you got to watch, there's little razor blades that the CA and the carbon make for some very interesting little razor blades, so you want to just be careful, or use a sanding block if you're so inclined. And basically that'll very quickly trim it up. Okay, that carbon fiber reinforcement is cheap insurance that we're not going to crack this. This piece now is very rigid, nice and rigid. Should be fine. Now, of course, wherever we put the bolts, we'll also, we haven't done that yet, and we're going to be joining some pieces, making seams The body work on this will be a big part of it, but we're going to try to do it in a methodical way that when we're done, you should be able to pick up some good tips if you're doing one of these restoration projects. So it was nice today to start the project by getting some of that reinforcing done. That reinforcing to me is, it's a big thing because, boy, nothing annoys me more than I put in a lot of hours and the paint cracks, or chips or something. Now we're going to do some reinforcing on the seat. I see the stock seat has a bolt here. We don't. We only have the 2 bolts on the bottom. We're going to modify the windshield to fit this fairing. That'll be interesting for you to see if you haven't seen how to do that. Now the crazy thing is we're starting this project way earlier than we normally start our winter projects. Usually we only do this work in the winter. And we still have all the riding gear out. It's still the riding season. So what we're going to do with the FZR is try to get a couple more rides in. It's got, I think, just under 32,000 right now. And get the oil change, get a new filter on it, get the new tires on it. And then we'll be ready to start this project. But we'll intersperse it with the videos we take during our rides. But it's a funny time of the year. It's riding. Every day it could be riding, working, riding. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. This is part 1. Part 2 will be the next day we get to work on this, and it's going to be an ongoing project. But thanks for watching.